Hey, it's Chrissy and Amanda.
Two girls from Saskatchewan, Canada, living the Reiki life while working the 9 to 5. Hey everyone, and welcome in. This is episode 33, and you are here with Amanda.
And Christy.
And I thought before we started off our episode today, I just thought we would do a little bit of a grounding exercise just to help us feel centered. Maybe it's kind of that wind down. We're reaching September now, and I know school season is starting and things can kind of feel hectic and maybe unorganized or scattered. So I just want you to take a really big, deep breath wherever you are. If you're driving, maybe it's not ideal for you to close your eyes, but if you're sitting at your desk or anything, just take a few moments here, take a really big, deep breath, and just bring awareness to where your feet are. If you can, try to plant them on the ground, or even just one foot on the ground if you're driving in your car. And just focusing on that breath and bringing our awareness down to our feet. Feeling that energy all the way into our root chakra as we're breathing into that base, that foundation. And I just want you to picture it being strong and sturdy and so supporting. And just remember that everything that builds on top of this foundation is what's going to guide us through our life. So we just want to make sure that we are feeling supported and completely safe in this space. So just taking another really big, deep breath in, feeling that energy climb all the way up your spine, strengthening and supporting that backbone, all the way up through the back of our neck and all the way out our crown. As above, so below. All right, that feels good. So, Christy, let's get into some updates. What's been going on with you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for that lovely grounding. I needed that. I was kind of all over the map this morning, so that really brought me back in and to the present moment. So thank you. Yeah, as far as an update, lots of weird intuitive things have been happening to me that it's so bizarre. Like the weirdest things will happen, and then I'm like, whoa, that was strange. And then it just kind of starts to become a normal part of life. Like we've been having really crazy storms here, which is odd for the end of August. And yeah, my one friend was out visiting me, and we were talking about tornadoes. And I was just saying, like, when I'm out here by myself in the country, like I get scared of storms. I don't know, it's just an unsettling feeling because you're not in control. Like you're at the mercy of Mother Nature. And yeah, we were just talking about tornadoes, and it was just really odd. And then later that day, I was watching some Netflix, and all of a sudden I get a warning on my phone, and it was, it said, seek immediate coverage, tornado warning. And I was like, what? So I like look outside, and I was like, well, there's no real dark clouds, but it was a real like humid, weird day. Like it felt weird. So I started to panic, and I called Troy. He was at work, and I was like, oh, what do I do? And then he's like, well, of course, go to the basement, and if you have to. And then his mom's calling. She doesn't live too far from here. And it ended up just a big thunder and lightning storm and like some strong winds, but no tornadoes. But that was wild. And then yesterday, Troy and I were talking about like insurance for different things that happen, like with hail damage and wind damage. And I was asking him about like, what kind of insurance do we have? You know, like those adult boring conversations. And I was thinking about hail. And then what happens last night? We get a big hailstorm. And luckily everything's okay. Like the vehicles are okay. The garden took a bit of a beating, but it's not bad. But it's just like these weird intuitive hits keep coming. And lately somebody told me that I do have, not like, I wouldn't classify as like prophetic, but, or I guess that maybe that's what it is. Like you can see into the future, and I've never wanted that. And now it's like kind of showing itself to me. And I'm just like, I don't know if I like this. Like these things are pretty gentle. Like it's not like something catastrophic I see, but it's so bizarre.
It is. It is a little like, I guess, bizarre, quote unquote,
Yeah.
but I find it very interesting. And you know what? Those are just really cool things to just take note of. Be like,
Yeah.
okay, noted. And then, if you knew that there was going to be a big storm, you could put something over your garden. You could use it in a good way to your advantage. You don't want to start going into town and ringing a bell and,
Yeah. I know.
it's submitting fear into everybody. But, your own knowledge, I mean, I think it's a neat thing. And if you wanted to strengthen it, you could just acknowledge it and meditate on it and see what else comes through. Like, I think that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is like a muscle that you have to train. And I'm just learning what feels like truth in my body and what feels like fear. Yeah, just staying in that, in your power in the present moment, I think is kind of the lesson that the universe is teaching me. And yeah, and even yesterday, my husband was shingling the roof and it was super hot out and he had a really bad migraine. And I just didn't even think about it, got up out of my chair and just put my hands on the back of his neck and just sent him Reiki. And he's just like, oh, that feels nice. And then all of a sudden I'm like, are you clenching at night? Like all these messages are like coming through and I'm just like holding my hands there. And it's so powerful that Reiki energy where like we talk about the kitchen table Reiki, where you can do Reiki for people that want it, of course, like we have to ask for consent. But it's just such an amazing modality to have just in those situations. Like I didn't help the migraine go away completely, of course. But he did find enough like strength to go back up on the roof and finish covering the roof. Cause of course we got the rain last night. So that would have been awful if he didn't cover the roof. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a little interesting thing that's going on that I wanted to share.
That's awesome. I really like that. And that's the best part about having Reiki. And even if you just have your Reiki level 1, that it's so great to give a gift to your spouse like that and just help relieve some of the tension. And then next thing you know, you're getting downloads and messages for them. I mean,
Yeah.
amazing. I love that.
Me too.
Good work.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
What's funny is that. So I went and saw that massage therapist that you saw
Oh,
for
no
the
way.
myofascia release.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so funny. So he's working on my body, and I'm thinking, God, it would be so neat if you could just see the energy just like breaking down and releasing in like this 5D experience. And I was kind of like picturing that in a really cool, like 3D or like 5D way, really. And he's like, huh, no one's ever made a comment like that before. And then it was funny when he was working on me, I was getting reads on him. And I
That
was like,
happened to
oh, you
me
have a
with
lot of,
him. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, you have a lot of tension in your upper back, hey? And he's like, yeah, I do. It is really tight right now. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, were we just talking about this? He's like, no. And I was like, oh. And then I was kind of sitting with it. And I was like, oh, well, there's somebody who's helping you, like holding the space for you on your back. It almost feels like I'm holding the space, or else someone is on his back. And he's like, oh,
Wow.
well, that's really nice. He's like, you can come back
You can.
for a session. And I thought, gosh, that's so funny. Just like our energies just connecting in and just almost exchanging in a way. I thought that was really, really neat.
That is
But
amazing.
yeah, I really like that kind of a massage. And I
Oh,
feel
wasn't
like
it?
all massage should be like that, releasing
Yeah.
that fascia.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing like it. And do you think maybe that part of him was like, or that was behind him is the healer that helps you in your session?
Yeah, it felt like something like that. Like it felt like a part of me, but not. So that could be.
Yeah. Just like a little team that comes around and heals people.
I know, like let's all work together. I thought it was so great.
That is
And then
great.
yeah, and then the other thing is that I had my first practice hypnotherapy session, which I was kind of disappointed with at first, to be real. And I went through this whole imposter syndrome, of course, but luckily the lady who came for this session is a very dear friend of mine. She's been with me since the beginning of my Reiki journey pretty well, or close to. And she had a lot of takeaways, which was great. But I'm used to doing a past life regression through Reiki, so I'm like a part of it. I am tuning in, I am there filling in the gaps. And this was really me taking a back seat. So I found that kind of hard to do in a way because I wanted to tune in and be in the vision to help guide and maybe heal things and switch things around in a way. So this was just kind of another lesson for me. And I definitely had some good takeaways and it was good. I guess I was just expecting to be like Dolores Cannon right out of the gate, which is not feasible. And I'm sure everyone can relate. We just want to be the best we can be to help the person. And it's a journey. And I'm going to try to stick with it and see if it's something that I want to shine light onto, or if I want to just incorporate it more with my Reiki, because I really like starting that foundation with Reiki and setting that groundwork. Like, I feel like we're really opening their third eye. We're opening their subconscious up after I Reiki them. So they're in that great state. And so I'm trying to get them in that great state without giving them Reiki, but just putting them into hypnotic state. So just kind of figuring all that out. If anyone has any comments on that, let me know. I'd be kind of curious on what you think. But yeah, anyways, that's my update.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fascinating. It's fun to watch like each other go on different journeys and try different modalities and then share about it. I just love it. And hypnotherapy is just so fascinating too. And it's interesting because you think about it, like you could be the best hypnotherapist, but then the person on the other end, it relies a lot on them as well. So it's like kind of a team coming. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. It is like a team coming together for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on.
Good. Okay. Astrology.
Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah. So September. So we have a new moon coming up September 3rd, and it's going to be a new harvest moon in Virgo. So last one of the summer. Virgo is the Hermit card in the tarot deck, which is a man walking kind of with a hooded cloak and a lantern, and he's an earth sign. This is a really nice grounded energy. So think of you walking a path in the dark with just a lantern and you're just shining the light on things that you really want to illuminate this new moon. So really bring things into the spotlight and make it like your focal point. So Virgo rules work, little small projects or tasks, chores, or anything that you really need to get done. So for me, this is like a perfect time for me to start like renovating my kitchen. And I'm not gonna like gut the kitchen, but I'm gonna take out a wall in between the kitchen and the living room. Like, hey, this is like perfect. I'm gonna set a really good intention, use that new moon that everything goes smoothly, all the renos go okay, and really harness that energy. And then for mid-September, so we have a lunar eclipse actually in Pisces on September 17th. And this is a water sign, and it is the High Priestess card in the tarot deck. So this could be a really good time to focus on that spiritual journey, really do the deeper inner work and let go of some of those shadows that might need to be aired out and released, and even things that could be holding you back. So I know it's hard to work on those things that can really kind of get a hold of you, but like if you need help releasing some of those limiting beliefs or even some of those spiritual blocks, like reach out to your local Reiki practitioner, reach out to me and Christy. We can always hold the space for you or help guide you in and just clear. Christy can do Akashic work. It's a really, really good time to just really sit with those shadows and release them, like write them down, burn them, just be ready to let go. And I also read that eclipse can be a huge time to release karma. So that really fits in actually with the episode that we are going to talk about today.
Oh, yeah, that totally does. That lines up perfectly. And, I do love Virgo season, like coming off of Leo. And I'm a Virgo rising, so it just, I just love it. Everything kind of comes back to its normal. Everyone goes back to school, and then routines come in, and yeah, and I bought a planner, so maybe I'll write things down so I remember them, but we'll see. I'm like a wannabe Virgo some days, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this energy because that last full moon in Aquarius, like it kicked a lot of people's butts. Like Yeah, some of my friends I was talking to, they're like, what happened? Like, I've been exhausted for a week. I've been triggered. My family's done this. Like, what is going on? It's just highlighted so many things that I guess we needed to release. And yeah, it's so interesting when you do pay attention to the cycles of the moon.
I know.
Even at work, the one girl's like, it must be a full moon. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It is.
I just saw this visual of someone being like, I've been robbed. Like, just wake up and it's like, what the hell's happened to my house? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh wait, I haven't been robbed. This is how I live. You know?
This is,
It's like, what happened? How did we get here? Yeah, I
oh
know. This
man.
is good energy. It's good to like get back into that grounded, like
Hmm.
routines and structure. I know I thrive on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. So looking forward to that. And
Mhm.
yeah, to dive back into our episode today, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's just a great conversation about the Akashics and karma. And Kayla is just an exceptional person to explain all of this all so well. I always tell her whenever you explain things, it's in such a digestible way, as like it just hits home. And I took the Akashic Record course from her. I guess I do explain that in the episode. So, but yeah, we really hope you guys enjoy this episode.
Yes, we know you will. So enjoy.
I'm thrilled to announce our next guest. Today we're here with Kayla from Akasha Awakened. She's an Akashic Soul Librarian that specializes in karmic healing and guiding you through Earth School. In Kayla's words, she helps people cut through the clutter of everyday life and tap into their infinite and beautiful potential by reading their Akashic records and conveying divine messages with clarity. I connected with her about 4 years ago when I found her through listening to a podcast, and I was so excited to find out that she was from Saskatchewan as well. She's been such an inspiration and a guide to me. She's really lit a flame inside of me, helped me understand my soul gifts, karmic patterns, and I've learned so much from her wisdom. She's the one that actually taught me how to read the Akashic Records, and to this day, it's still the best course I have ever taken. So today we're going to dive into what the Akashics really are and how karma works. So welcome, Kayla.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Christy. What an introduction.
You're welcome.
And
We're
thanks
so
for having
excited.
me. I'm very excited too.
Yeah. If there was, you know how everybody has like an expander to help them when they're reaching their goals, and someone's like, well, if she can do it, it's that's definitely you are one of those for us. So it's really exciting to
Well,
have you on.
thank you. I appreciate that. It all started from a very difficult place. So it's nice to know that that cycle of karma does pay off, right?
Do you mind going into a little bit of that, of how it did start for you and your journey
Sure.
to get?
So I just started well, I would have considered myself really normal. I wouldn't have said I was born with any special gifts or any leg up in life. I grew up on a farm in Saskatchewan. My parents were like working class. There was nothing fancy about my life. And I remember being really young and just saying, I want more out of life. I don't want to just be here to survive, which is kind of what I was witnessing in my upbringing. And I kind of did all the things I thought I was supposed to do to be happy or successful. So I went to school, I got a degree, I traveled a little bit. I had this job that like childhood Kayla would have been so proud to have. I had a salary, pension, all these things, but I was still getting nowhere in life. I was flat broke. I was exhausted, depleted. My relationships were like suffering. And I remember being like 27 years old and being like, I really went through these steps and I have really nothing to show for it. And when I say flat broke, I mean like for real broke. I used to have to roll quarters to pay for fuel. Like it was just terrible. People would say like, let's do happy hour on Friday. And I definitely didn't have $40 for a beer and an appy. So I would just make up some elaborate excuse of why I couldn't go. And I just remember thinking like, this is it. this is what I'm going to do for this amount of time. And I was exhausted and just kind of at my wit's end when I just started asking a lot of questions like, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? What do other cultures believe is going on here? You know, what are other religions? Like, what's the answer? And I just happened to ask one question that really like threw me into a cycle of this journey. And it's kind of a weird story, but do you guys want to hear it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I do.
My grandma, who's just a regular farming grandma, she was quiet, strong, silent type, once told me that she seen a UFO. And I asked her, I was like, well, what about it? And she's like, I don't know. My car stopped working and I don't know. And I was like, what? So I just happened to like type, like, if aliens are real, what is their spiritual belief? Because they're obviously smarter than humans if they are real. And it just ended up throwing me into the world of Dolores Cannon, who for my entire life, I will talk about the praise of Dolores Cannon. So I read all her books. She's a hypnosis, like a hypnotherapist, and I decided to get hypnotized. And like all the answers came flooding through at that point. It didn't make sense to me at first. And I remember wanting to maybe go into hypnosis, but nothing ever really lined up. Nothing lined up. I just didn't feel right. Courses didn't feel right. And then by divine guidance, the Akashic Records had just hit me kind of on the side of the head. I had the word felt interesting. I was curious about it. And I love books. I love reading. And I just remember being like, this is the thing. I don't know what it is, but this is it. So I started reading books about it. I took a few classes. I had two mentors, and I just went into the Akashic Records every day since I discovered it, since I was kind of trained how. And I haven't stopped since. And really, going from that hopeless desperation, the point of life, there's no point to life. And I remember thinking, I wish I was never born. Like, this sucks. And learning through the Akashic Records that we had free will, we come here with karma to unravel, we come here with a purpose, was the light that I needed to essentially reclaim my life and decide that I wanted to live it.
Yeah, I think everybody goes through that moment of one, like those childhood years are tough. It's almost like a feeling of you don't really know where you belong, you don't know who you are, trying to navigate that. And then going through that depression kind of, I know I went through that big time as a kid, really hard.
Mm,
And then when you finally step into that true purpose, you do feel a lot better because you feel aligned and things just become
exactly.
easier.
Exactly. And it's just honestly like a light turns on, and you're kind of, you almost reclaim your power very quickly after feeling very disempowered for a lot of, well, for my life anyway, very disempowered. And you realize, oh, I did this. I'm here on purpose. I chose to be here. I chose my parents. I chose my path. Okay, well, let's make something of it.
That's right. Yeah, we're not like, we don't come to Earth to just go to work every day, come home, rinse and repeat. Like, there's so much more to like our lives here, and just trying to figure all of that out is, yeah, one of our greatest mysteries we'll ever try and solve while we're here on Earth. So, for people that maybe don't know exactly what the Akashics are, like how would you explain to somebody what they are that's never heard of them before?
So I often describe the Akashic Records historically, if you were to, research them, it's essentially depicted as the library of your soul. So where you can go and visit your stories, the experiences you've had. Who are you? Why are you here? What are your intentions? And it's kind of in that soulful, ethereal realm. So it does exist outside of time, it exists outside of space. Where, if you believe in reincarnation, you can revisit those past lives. You can revisit your childhood. You can revisit experiences that you've had and see it from this kind of soulful perspective. And I'm not a specialist of the future. I'm all about creating the future. I'm not a specialist about reading the future, but you can also see potential future timelines and outcomes, which can be very inspiring because you get to see, oh, look at all these things I could create with this life. And the best sort of modern day analogy that I like to give people is the Akashic records are really this fancy term of a place to really practice your intuition. And just as you can be attuned to Reiki and you use that attunement to do certain things, the Akashic records are really no different. But it is looking at the stories that people hold within them. And the modern day analogy I use is often kind of like the internet. There's all this information in one place at one time, and you can kind of hone into your own database. And if you become a practitioner, obviously that you can facilitate that for other people as well. And you get to kind of check out what's going on.
Can anyone access the Akashics? Like, there's no reason why someone wouldn't be able to.
Exactly. It is a resource that I believe was originally given as a gift to people to be able to make sense of their earthly life because Earth school is very challenging and it is a resource that anyone can access. And I would say like learning how to read the Akashic records, you can just like do a guided meditation on YouTube. Like it's very accessible to everyone. I just always say it's a lot of information. You wouldn't walk into the New York City Library and be like, I need a book. You'd be like, okay, I need a book on this. I need to go to nonfiction or whatever. So it helps you navigate. And if you wanted to read on behalf of other people, you need the attunement, because you can't meddle in other people's businesses without having that kind of space. But you can read your own Akashic record or even the records of people who influence you, but only the information that pertains to you. So let's say you're married, you have access to, is my partner's bad karma affecting my life? And it will give you that kind of information. But yeah, it is a resource for all people. And I just believe it's been kind of removed from us a little bit because it is too empowering.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like why would they want us to know all of that information? Like there's so like anything you can think of, I believe that you can find in the Akashic records like about yourself and your soul, and just getting to know yourself at that soul level has been so empowering for me. Like to learn my gifts and like what empowers me and my karma is just, yeah, I can't say enough good things about it.
Oh, well, thank you, because that's how I feel about it. It really, really changed my tune about who I was, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it can
Yeah,
be really
and
validating too for people. If they're just don't know what's going on or what route they should take, yeah, it's so validating as well.
Hmm.
yeah, like how many messages have you received after giving readings of people being like, "Oh my goodness, how did you know this? You explained that so well. I've always wondered about that." And it's just in those moments it's just magic when it lights up in someone. You wake up that knowing in them.
Exactly. And yeah, it just works. Like I sometimes am even shocked myself. Like I always say, I'm more of a messenger. That's kind of what we are as like mediums or go-betweens. It's like we are messengers. And I sometimes don't even know how come the information can be so accurate, but it's awesome.
I know, like when I'm collecting the info, asking the questions, and I was just like, this makes absolutely no sense to me because, well, it's not my record. And then I relay that information to the client, and they're like, whoa, like the age 16 was wild for me. This all makes so much sense. And I'm carrying all these limiting beliefs and this and that. And yeah, it's really neat.
It is neat. I'd have to agree. And my favorite part has definitely been about uncovering karma. We on Earth here, we have all these of course, the disempowerment, right? There's a lot of people on this planet who hold a lot of power that benefit so greatly from us not having our power.
Mhm.
So the definitions of karma, the understanding of karma on this planet in the mass is, I think, a little bit inaccurate. And suddenly learning how karma really works like instantly changed my life. It was, I always tell people, even in sessions, when I explain karma to them, I'm like, if you take nothing away from this session except how karma works, your life will still be forever changed. And that's a huge response I often get, like, whoa, I never really thought of it that way. And it's almost like the truth is always hidden in plain sight. Would you say that when you first learned about the karmic laws?
Oh, yeah, 100%. You know, you grow up and it's like what goes around comes around, you know. It's like give to the charity and they'll give back to you. Help that person across the street and it'll come back tenfold. And
Hmm.
when you explained how karma works, it's actually between you and you. And when you said, I was like, no, it's not like that. I was like, that just debunks everything I've learned my entire life and the way I've lived my life. So yeah, when you explained how it works, it was like mind blowing.
Hmm. I agree. And almost like the day you leave that session and try applying those principles, your life just starts to slowly get better. It's so great. It's so great. Taking your power back through the Akashic Records is it's just it's my passion, obviously, right?
Kayla, can you explain to people what karma is
Yeah,
and the
absolutely.
way that you explain it? Yeah.
Okay, so I do feel there's sort of two components to karma, but the main one that was really empowering for me was, as Christy said, we are often taught that karma is what goes around comes around. And that's partly true, but we often have always decided to live for this, yeah, I'm going to donate money because I'm going to get that money back one day, or I'm going to work that shift for my coworker because then she'll pick up my shift when I need it. But even if you think about your own life or you do look at people that are extraordinarily generous, it doesn't ever seem to come back. Like we've all had that experience where we've picked up that shift and then when we need it, no one's there for us because being a good person often just depicts good person, quote unquote, depicts this like kind of doormat energy. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was definitely like the good person. I worked really hard and I was getting nowhere. And so, what karma really is it is, in fact, the law of action and consequence. So, take an action, and whatever your intention is behind that action, it will come back to you in the consequence. But it has nothing to do with anyone else. It's not about your coworker. It's not about the charity. It's not about your children, your partner, your parents. It's just a mirror that reflects back to you the choices you make for yourself. So when we actually consider other people, like picking up the shift or donating the money because we want to be a good person, we're actually setting the intention in that choice that this person matters more than me right now. Their time is more valuable, so I will take their shift. And this cause is more important than the causes in my life that I need to address. And so we actually create a deficit, especially if we don't have what we want. You know, when our cup is overflowing, go ahead, do whatever you please. But most of us do not have a full cup. So we prioritize someone else's time. And what we've actually created is more lack of time for ourselves. We're going to create situations where more people want us to pick up shifts, more people need our attention, more people want us to invest in their timeline. And when we donate money or, spend money, giving it away, we literally create more lack. Our money goes to these causes greater than us, and we don't have a lot left in our fingertips for what we desire, for what we want. So, what I often say is life is kind of like this Mount Everest. It is hard to create the life that you want and get karma so that it's really giving you what you desire instead of what you don't desire. And what really it looks like to me when I picture it in my mind is a lot of people are at the bottom of the mountain and we're trying to carry everyone on our back. We're trying to take our friends, our coworkers, our kids, our partners. Let's go together. But what happens is you're not learning your lessons or taking on your soul's growth because you're prioritizing everybody else. But then the people you're trying to carry also aren't growing because you're doing everything for them. They're not meeting their natural consequences. So I always say, just drop it. You need to focus on like, what do I want? Where do I want to go? And start climbing that mountain. And once you start getting a vantage point and things are starting to flow, this is where you can be helpful to others. But usually, I don't know how to describe this. Maybe you guys can expand on it. But when you actually come to a point where you're gaining some traction in life, you realize that donating $20 to somebody isn't going to help them. It's so empty. What's really going to help is information, experience, your story, and it inspires them to change at their soul level. And then you're really helpful. You can buy coffee and do whatever, but and it's not to say other people don't matter. We don't want to kick other people when they're down. That's not good karma either. But what happened, my story is I used to work with refugee children. So they would come from these incredibly horrendous backgrounds, trauma, abuse, war, displacement. And when they came, I had so much compassion and sympathy for them that if, I would constantly kind of go above and beyond, and I would buy them school supplies if their parents couldn't. I would wake up early to make sure that they wouldn't miss the bus, and I would do all these things. And when I kind of learned about karma, I realized that why were these children born? And it's just karma doesn't even care if you're a child. Like it doesn't give anyone a get out of jail free card. And it still bothers me to this day, but it's how it goes. Why is this happening to this person? And it's like, well, this person has been abusing themselves for many lifetimes. And now that physical abuse is manifesting in their physical reality. They've been abandoning themselves for many lifetimes, and now a literal abandonment is taking place in their life. They've been at war with themselves for so long that they were born into war-torn countries. And I can buy school supplies for them all day, but nothing's going to change until they see their worth and act accordingly. So you can be a guide, you can be a support, but there's never any benefit to carry somebody through that. It's kind of like addicts too, right? Like you can tell them how much you want them to change, but they don't change until that they have that moment where they're like, I do belong here. I matter, right? So that's kind of the karmic way of kind of generating and creating the life that you want. When you choose to act positively and honor your soul, honor your journey, honor your truth, you get a plus from the universe, and it's abundance of health and happiness and time and love and money and all these things. But when we negate ourselves and our truth, when we treat ourselves negatively, when we sacrifice, when we don't see our divinity, that's a way that we dishonor ourselves and we generate that negative energy back from the universe, which is lack, the deficit of love, health, happiness, time, money, you name it. So when people want to start creating better for themselves, it's like you really got to laser into that mirror and ask yourself, like, what do I want to create and how do I start walking that talk? And it's hard, but it happens so fast that you see things changing and you're like, oh my God, it's true. I'm kind of one of those people that is like, no. And I literally tried to disprove the theory, but good things started happening to me. And I was like, I have to tell everyone about this.
Okay, I have quite a few takeaways and things I want to add to this. So it's really, you're telling people anytime they put the word should in front of something, I should do something, that is the worst thing you can do for your karma. And I have been
100%.
taking that to such heart lately. If I have to use the word I should, then I'm like, no, you don't. You just should do it then. If it feels like work, then I'm trying to cut that out. And I'm really glad you're almost affirming that. And I'm sure there's tons of people out there who are going through the same thing. I should text that person. I should do this. Yeah, cut it out. It's not good for your karma. I love that. And it's that whole Jesus teaching somebody how to fish rather than giving them a fish. I
Okay,
always
yes,
think,
thank you.
yeah, like I always think too, I had to shift this when I became a mom because all of a sudden I just wanted to like control everything and like do all the things that, oh, I can just do it. I can just do it. And then somebody told me once, they're like, you know that they're living their life too, and they have stuff they came here to do. You can't rob them of their growth. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. That's what I'm doing. I'm robbing them of their chance to be a great person because I want to control it. And I want to just do it for them because I think I can handle it better. Or I'll just do it. It's like, no, it's like they're not getting any growth in that time. And I always remember that, and it really helps me take a step back. And then in turn, I'm filling my own cup at the same time. So it's like I'm not stretching myself so thin, and I'm giving my partner in this example the chance to be great because he is great. And I need to allow him to be great. So many great things about karma. I love this.
Exactly. You nailed it. I even coach people and say, if you feel like it's an obligation, that's immediately one of the things you want to address. And there are, of course, certain responsibilities we have as humans, like we need to eat food, like you might hate that and it's an obligation, but there's so many ways to shift the way we engage with preparing meals or having food that doesn't have to be so cumbersome, right?
Mhm.
And it's just like these little edits on our day-to-day level. People always think of these grand karmic gestures. I'm going to donate money to a charity and it's going to come back. But it's actually the micro choices that we make on our 24-hour cycle of a day-to-day that is what adds up to the consequences. And these consequences are our life. It's the money in our bank account, it's the quality of our relationships, it's the jobs, it's the opportunities, it's our friends. That is all a reflection of what is going on inside of us and the choices we've been making.
Right. Yes. And even thinking about my experience with karma just recently is I've always had a problem with time. I always thought I was always rushed. I never had enough time. I'm going to be late and just time. So it's just like, why don't I change my thought around time and be like, I have lots of time. Let's tell the universe that time is great. I'm going to have lots. And then before you know it, you're at work and time flies by. And then I'm at home with my husband and time slows down. And then all of a sudden I have all this time. It was the weirdest thing. I never thought it would happen like within, I'd say 24 hours of just changing those tiny things that you do throughout the day. It was wild.
Oh, that's a huge one. Every time I'm running late, I will hit every red light and every
Yeah.
like hang up, slowest drivers. And then when you're like, no, time is going to work out. It's fine. It's like everything just opens up for you and you're early. It's so weird.
It is weird. It really is.
Is there a difference between like good karma and bad? And you want to talk about the different types of karma?
Okay. So so first of all, I would say that karma is a universal law and it's kind of just operating all the time. Action, consequence, action, consequence. So in that sense, there's only kind of one version of karma, and it's really just feeding you what you're choosing. But there are different karmic lessons and experiences, that's for sure. And I think the main karmic path is just trying, like, the whole point is trying to get your karma to work for you instead of against you. And because karma kind of seeps through lifetime after lifetime, sometimes the things that we're experiencing in our life aren't an exact reflection of what's happening in this life. It's coming through past lives. So it is in some ways really important to be able to recognize those karmic loops that we're getting stuck in and ask ourselves like, why do I keep creating this? Why do I keep attracting this? And trying to figure out how to create the more favorable outcome and to move through that. When I say different types of karma, I would say like there's different karmic lessons and they kind of do often really match the chakras. Like if you were like, oh, well, what are they? Well, there's karma on with the crown chakra, like reclaiming your divinity, which means reclaiming your worth, reclaiming your power, reclaiming your rightful space as an authority figure in your life. When it comes to the third eye, it's like reclaiming your truth, even if that is not the truth of your family, your people, your societal expectations. What do you see for yourself? Who are you? Let's reclaim that. The throat, reclaiming our self expression, our truth, our ability to bring what's inside of our heart out into the world and know that we're still lovable, that we're still acceptable. The heart chakra, obviously, reclaiming our self love. And because everything's a mirror, it also is the reclamation of loving relationships with romantic partners and our community and our family and, clients, all these different things. And it is the place of healing as well. So reclaiming our healing, but that is always done through love. The solar plexus, reclaiming our confidence, reclaiming our self-esteem, reclaiming our beauty, reclaiming our personal goals, the things that are sacred to us. What do we want to create in this life? What do we want to see expressed in this life? The sacral, reclaiming our body, reclaiming our creative energy, our ability to create the life, our ability to manifest, our ability to experience joy and be in this physical realm. And then the root chakra oftentimes looks like reclaiming our safety, our community, our basic needs being met in order for us to be able to truly thrive and move out of that survival. And it kind of also matches like the astrological evolution as well, but you cram a few more energies into each area. But those would be probably the foundational karmic lessons for all of us on this earth. And it kind of just has an expression. Are you in the negative expression of that, or are you in the positive reclaimed self-expression? So it becomes almost like a polarity where we're all trying to hit some of the higher polarity, but every one of us is starting at different points and we have different chakras and different karma that are hard for us. I think about the throat chakra. Some people are just awesome at expressing themselves as an individual, and other people really have a hard time with that. And it's very dependent on, what you chose to do in this life, but also the experiences you've had and your karma and all that fun stuff. Does that kind of answer the question?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I never really thought about connecting the chakras into karma, especially when I'm reading them when I'm doing Reiki. Hey, Christy, it's really interesting to think about it. That could be a karmic thing to clear. I always just think, oh, yeah, it's out of balance, but I never have associated it with karma.
I know, isn't that interesting? So it's just like my wheels were turning as you were saying it. Like when you're scanning the chakras and say you're over the third eye, and then like you said, like something took away their truth. They don't see their truth. And then we go and explore that chakra and see what happened. Was it in childhood? Was it in a past life? So where did that karma go wrong to create this block or break or whatever's going on in that third eye?
And the third eye is always so interesting. I often find it's like living in a place where your truth just isn't accepted and you have to follow these narratives that you don't enjoy. But I often also see people being blindsided. Like all of a sudden, life's going just one foot in front of the other. And then it's like, wartime breaks out and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like this wasn't what I imagined for my incarnation. And it's just like, we can't like gather it after that. We can't like recover from that jolt, it feels like.
That's interesting. I never would have made that connection with the third eye. Yeah. Just a blast to the third eye.
Yeah, it's real because I love going into the chakra and just exploring more. And it's almost better to go in with that intention that I'm going to clear the karma. I always put in the intention, obviously, to heal what needs to be healed, but just to add that other word in there, I feel like would be pretty important. And just feeling almost like a wave of energy, almost like whoosh it out and whoosh it out through the line, through their soul line, it feels like. That's what I'm envisioning.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna work that in. I love that.
That's awesome. I always tell people too, let's say if you were, so I'm not a Reiki master, so I don't know at all what you guys are talking about. But when I work with people, if they are working through the karma, let's say of the third eye, if it is about action and consequence, well, it's really good to evaluate with your client or your people. Where are you not even allowing yourself to look at your truth, and how can we get you to look at it? When's the last time you had a bucket list? When's the last time you had a daydream that you took seriously? When was the last time that you you made plans for your future, or you allowed yourself to trust your own intuition versus the pressure of people around you. Or, and I give them homework. I'm like, it's time to get that vision going. It's time to take that ownership back, because just that new action, that new thought pattern will actually begin to yield different consequences for them that's really tangible in their physical reality as well as their being, their energy. So I always give them actionable homework, and it's seems to be really like the bread and butter where things start to move when I'm working with a client, but remembering I'm not clearing out their chakras via the Reiki system.
I can definitely relate to that example. And once I did do that, I do feel like there was a massive shift in me and where everything was going. It was like I made a conscious decision, like, I'm done with that. I need to find my own power within me and stop trying to outsource it to other people, and realize that, not like that a kind of expression, you are your own guru in a way. Stop
Mhm.
trying to outsource it. Stop telling yourself that everyone else is better and that you need to go to them. You need to follow their lead when really you're your own person and you need to tread
Mhm.
your own path.
Have you guys ever had the experience where, let's say you were going to a bunch of sessions and outsourcing your power, and then all of a sudden it's like you're not readable anymore, and the sessions are like a waste of money, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, okay, I get it. I need to work on this for myself. Every time that happens to me, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Do the work on yourself.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Remember I had
Yeah.
that I had a card reading at an expo from like this one famous card, well, like locally famous card reader. And I left and I was like, what the hell was that? I was like,
I
that was
remember
shit.
that.
It's like I paid money for that. I was like, I already know all this shit. I was just so yeah, okay, that makes total sense. Yep, bring
So
it
funny.
back within. It's just sparking that remembering because it's all already all inside of you.
Hmm. Not
You
saying
know,
it's not good to go to practitioners, because every once
Yeah.
in a while it's like you just need that like other perspective. But I always notice when my, spirit team is like, okay, you're really not taking any responsibility for yourself. I just keep getting like duds, and I'm like, okay, I get it.
yeah, I know I'll always need like that other person, like Christy, to give me a Reiki session. Sometimes you do need that outsource for sure because I'm not doing my own homework. But Christy, that is so funny. When you went for that card reading, I was thinking that. I thought, what is she going to tell you that you don't already
Yeah, I
know or that you
know,
haven't read for
right?
yourself? And then you come out and you're like, well, that I don't know what I think. And I'm like,
I
yeah, that's so validating for you.
yeah, I guess I needed to do that. I needed to pay the
Yeah,
money, sit there and be like, "Oh, okay, like why am I doing this?" So funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Uh,
All right. So should we get into clearing karma in the Akashic? So when you're doing a reading and you come across the karma, um, how does that all get cleared within the
and what does it look
Akashics?
like to you?
Okay, yeah, what does it look like to me? So when we're clearing out old karma, I feel a lot like a reporter. So I usually imagine it like this, the internet. So I've looked at my clients, web page, and it's almost as if like their soul and their spirit team is like, all right, these are all the things that this person is engaging with right now that are really detrimental. And they're like showing it to me. And they're like, this has got to go, select and highlight. This has got to go, select and highlight. This has got to go. And because of the nature of free will, that's as far as I can go. And we are our own gurus, we are our own healers. So what ends up happening is I've left it on select and highlight. And I have to now share with my client what I've seen, what I'm seeing as the block, what I'm seeing as the karmic loop. And what they do is they bring consciousness to it. All of a sudden, it has a name. All of a sudden, I see how that affects my life. I see how I engage in that. And it's not in the dark anymore. It's not in the subconscious anymore. And we bring it front and center. And then I've kind of set it up in the background where it's like, as soon as this client brings these things to light and says willingly with their free will that I don't want this anymore, as soon as that happens, it's just like the delete key goes off, they've hit it, and it's like it all just kind of vanishes. But it doesn't technically vanish. What really happens is it goes into the archive, and it's like this isn't active karmic loops anymore. We've acknowledged it as complete. We've learned all we can from it. Let's put it on the shelf. But we don't want to lose the experience because we have grown as souls from the challenging parts of our life. So we've just archived it. It's not active anymore. And what I kind of go from there is I'm like, all right, well, let's create something that's in a better alignment. And I usually, tell my clients like, well, if you were living with this, third eye karma where you've never been engaging with your own truth, I say, we're marking that as complete and you will feel a difference in your lifetime or in your life. But you also don't want to slip back into those old disempowering choices. We want to make new empowering choices and take that responsibility back. And the Akashic Records just like Reiki, really all that stuff is so magical where it just happens. Like the intention is set, the work has been done, the light has been shed, and the angels and guides in the background are putting books back on the shelf and we're opening new ones. And it just really happens. And people really feel that shift within their energy system because they're not stuck in that loop. We kind of just break the loop. And then we're like, let's start a new, better one. And so it's mostly done through intention and bringing things to light, bringing things to consciousness. I always say my tagline is like, we got to reveal it to heal it. You have to understand it in order for it to really go when it comes to these karmic kind of bonds, right? Otherwise, we just blindly keep engaging in the same behaviors and the same sabotaging stories, and we end up where we've always been.
Yeah, people really do have to own it. And then it can be healed. When you archive it like that, because I know it can take people a little bit of a shift to have to change a habit like that too, especially if they take comfort in the habit that they were doing forever. Can that slip back in after they've archived it?
I guess I have two layers to answer that question. So, first of all, when it comes to healing things in the Akashic Records, the only things that will actually appear for me when I'm doing the research will be things that the client is for sure ready to let go of or ready to bring into awareness. If there's something that they just won't be able to handle, they're not ready, they won't be able to let it go, it's not probably even going to be known to me because that consciousness won't click. So first of all, whatever comes up, it actually is what the client is ready to release. But yes, you can archive something and it can come back, but I would say you'd have to actively sabotage yourself to really re-engage in that because you kind of get this jolt of really nice energy when you leave and I always include a little bit of life coaching and it's mostly just, okay, these are the things that would really benefit you. And so first, I mean, if you just think about it in yourself, if I said these are your top 3 things to do for homework, it's kind of hard to go unconscious again. You can slip up, but you can't become unaware of that. And just that awareness alone, naturally, eventually, people do start to seem to move forward with those new patterns. You can re-engage with it, but I do find it's rather challenging. Like you kind of have to be going through a really hard time where you just can't process and you kind of slip back in, is my experience. Most people, when they clear it, I would say it's how fast or how slow are you really going to start generating that new karma. You could be on the snail's pace and it could take you a really long time, but you're still making progress. Or you could be disciplined and it'll happen a lot faster for you. But I do find it's more like the speed at which you get out of it, not necessarily completely engaging in the loop and getting stuck again.
I had a really profound healing experience. And when she did a healing on me, we were up in the Akashics. And you're right, I was ready to release that. And my heart exploded open. and it was time, and I'll never be able to go back to how it was ever. It was life changing. So I'm thinking of it that way, as in I get that as in sometimes maybe I don't know if I was hanging around maybe a bad crowd. I don't know if something really drastic happened. Maybe I could slip back into where my heart space was, but I don't even think that's possible.
No.
It was
Exactly.
such a healing. Yeah, so I get that for sure. I guess I was mainly thinking of, how people, it takes a while for people to break habits, but I don't think that's what they would be in the Akashics for. I think it would be more like the heart healing that I had. So yeah,
Hmm.
thanks for clarifying that.
Good. I'm glad it made sense. I was like, does this even make sense what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
that's good.
no, it does. I was thinking more of like the hypnotherapy in the beginning and then how like changes
Mm.
and yeah, I was kind of going somewhere else.
Yeah. So healing karma, it affects our life, this lifetime, but also visiting like past lives, and those can bleed into our lives. So, like, what's the power of understanding your karma, like in this lifetime, with like, how am I trying to say? Like, do you have any stories to share about like the power of healing the karma and understanding it?
Yes, that's a good question. So when we come into this lifetime, because this probably isn't our first rodeo on Earth, could be close, but it's probably not. One of the main things that we will write into our lifetime is any obstacles that we got hung up in last time, we will rewrite it into this lifetime in some way, shape, or form. But the idea is we don't want unfinished business. And to be honest, I don't even know if you can have unfinished business on Earth. You kind of got to solve your karma. It's literally Earth school. This is a karmic place. This is the point of your incarnation, is to figure out what went wrong once upon a time and actually prevail upon it this time. So you'll write in a very similar interaction with the intention of transcending it and choosing the empowerment choice versus the disempowerment choice. So knowing what your past lives are, knowing what your karma is, actually will explain so much about what you're experiencing in your current life, sometimes to a T. I've met clients where I've said things like, you had a husband who thought you were really, dumb and never respected you, never this, that, or the other. And I've had people be like, are you talking about this lifetime or the other one? Like, they're like, that's still exactly happening. And sometimes it's crazy things, like not just an aggressive husband. Sometimes it's like, they work the same job. They're experiencing the same type of violence in their life, like the same car accident, the same death over and over again because they never got past the grief or they never got past the disempowerment, so they just face it over and over. So knowing your past lives and knowing your karma is, to me, it's been so validating. I'm like, oh, that's why I had to struggle so much when I was a child. That's why this happened to me. That's why I'm confused. That's why this. And then to me, it also empowers you to get past it faster. I mean, how much time do we spend just asking ourselves, why? And when you know your karma, you know why, and you know what you're supposed to do. So then it's just like, boom, like let's get to the other side of this. And this is like my speech sometimes that I say to people. I don't think that getting lost in the past, re-victimizing yourself, um, dwelling on these things is where that's not the point of this, but the past empowers you in the now. It tells
Mhm.
you exactly what your soul's trying to do in this lifetime. So now you can do it. This is the only place we have power. So let's do it. Let's go. And it will get you to the place you desire to be more smoothly and quickly because it cuts out the clutter, it cuts out the confusion. And I can't think of any very specific stories right now, but it's just like crazy those past lives, hey? And then they're like, that's still happening to me. I'm doing that right now. And it can be incredibly specific, and they'll be like, no way. So it's very powerful. And I encourage everyone to figure out like what their karma is because it's gonna jet set your path again with that awareness. Like Amanda said, I couldn't go back because I it just blew everything open. You can't just go around pretending you don't see
Yeah.
the loops in your life once you see them. So you just prevail. You just move forward with a lot more ease and a lot less confusion and honestly clarity. I mean, how much time do we spend? Is this the right thing? Am I being a bad person? Am I rude? Am I doing this? And all of a sudden it's like, no, you're not invaluable. It's just someone told you that so many times you believe it to be true now. But the idea in this lifetime is you do become a little aggressive. Tell those people to get out of your way. Put people in their place. And that's counterintuitive sometimes when we're trying to be a good person, to actually embrace our anger or have boundaries or tell people to get out of our space. And sometimes that's exactly what karma's asking. And it just gets rid of that, oh, should I not? I don't know. It gets rid of the confusion.
Yeah. And we all know how we feel about that word should.
Yeah. Don't be
Yeah.
shooting your pants. I heard someone
Yeah.
say that, and I was like, I love that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I've had some powerful readings with you, Caleb, with past lives. I remember like going through a difficult time, and this past life came through where I was like an empress, and I had all this power and these gifts, and I had a daughter that I didn't really connect with, and I kind of regretted. And I don't know if it was like the royalty or someone was after my power, and they were gonna either I give them my power, like my book of all my secrets, or they're gonna kill my child. And I ended up giving my child away to keep my own secrets and to keep my power. And just with what was going on in my life at that time, it just mirrored everything. And it like puts a modern spin on like a old medieval story, like how life is so different between that lifetime and this one. But the origin was like giving my power away. Like, where did I make that mistake? And I don't want to do that again. And I'm attracting this into my life. It just connected so many dots that I needed help with. And I needed that guidance to get through that part in my life. So
I
yeah.
forgot about that story. That was a good one. I remember there were so many details in there, and you were like, whoa, that does really fit the bill. And speaking of like these old medieval stories, the reason sometimes in our current life these decisions feel like life or death to us is because back then it was life or death. So that's why it's like, oh my God, do I do this or do I do that? And it just feels one of the decisions feels so incredibly wrong, but it also is often the one that we want the most, but we're like, I can't do it. I'm a bad person for even wanting it. So understanding those stories where it was life or death and realizing that the weight of that decision is going to affect you in your current life as well. Like, oh, that's one of the things that's helped me with past lives. Like knowing, I even hate saying it out loud because if I was to describe myself like a few years ago, I never would have said that this was my karma. But I am a recovering people pleaser. And I'm a spicy like Aries, so you don't pick that up on me like really, really right away because I'm good with, people that are in my external, like I have decent boundaries. But people that I'm close to, it is so hard for me to put boundaries into place, or it was really hard for me. And I was like, oh my God, like who knew? Who knew? I thought I was just being a good daughter, a good friend. And it's like, no, like, girl, you gotta get some space between these people. So and it felt so wrong. It felt so wrong and so challenging to put those boundaries into place with people. And when you listen to that, it doesn't seem like it should be that heavy. Like, yeah, everyone needs boundaries. You should do like you be like no should, you want to be doing as you want to be doing. Don't do all these other things because you should. It sounds so easy to other people listening, but it was life or death to me. And it's from that past life. And we all have something like that where our survival depended on it in a past life. And we will feel like it's the worst choice we can make in this lifetime. And we'll have an aversion to it, but it's actually the thing we're supposed to do. So karma's a funny thing.
Hmm. And Christy, when did you get that reading with Kayla? Like that was a few years ago, wasn't it?
That was last year.
Oh, what's
When I
that?
was
Okay.
leaving work and I had the foster dog and like that
Okay.
whole
I was gonna
scenario.
say, I feel like that story, so that was a year ago, and it's like things even this year, so a whole year later, I feel like almost resonates with that story.
Yep.
But like, right? Just like things we've gone through even just this like past few months. It's like,
Yes.
whoa, that's super interesting. So you can have a reading like that and it'll still come up months and months later, things will still unravel and make sense, and you'll have a click moment. Like,
Oh,
yeah, I
big
just thought
time.
about that. I'm like, whoa, that really makes sense.
Yeah, and in a way, it's like a part to revisit about your soul. Like, you know, you've given someone a good reading that they will reflect back on a year later, 6 months later. Like, you know, you really hit something within them. And that's just, yeah, I just love that.
Oh, that's so great. And it also just like illuminates that these are the cycles that we're in. And even in my own experience, it's like you think you only have to defeat the cycle once, but it kind of comes back around and it keeps being like, do you still remember your power? Do you
Yeah.
still remember your power? But it gets easier every time because you're like, oh, I know what this is all about. Like, I got
Mhm.
this, you know? So it just, oh, makes everything so much easier.
It really does. And with your people pleasing, I was curious, like, would you want to share one of the past lives with that people pleasing karma?
Sure, yeah.
I was
So it's
curious.
actually a past life that I did when I was on like a shamanic journey, which is a lot kind of like hypnosis, so you get to sort of watch it. Because I'm not really good at reading my own Akashic record. I just get in my own way. So I always get someone else to do it for me. But I was in a shamanic journey and I I was kind of this Arabian princess, honestly, is what it was. And I was like locked in my, like literally it felt like the plot of Aladdin. And I was kind of like in my palace. I wasn't allowed to do anything. And there was this immense amount of pressure from my parents to get married. But it wasn't like, oh, you get to choose your own partner. It was like all these different people I had to choose from. And I remember like my father really asking me to like pick this one person because of the treaties that would have happened between the two kingdoms or whatever. And I remember willingly being terrified because I was like, I have to pick the right person because, you know, I have a good name. I am beautiful. Like people do want this, but I don't want to be manipulated. I don't want these things. And in the end, I was like so sure I picked the right person. My father approved. It was the guy he wanted. And like the day we got married, he just like put a knife. I was like, I don't know how I ended up on my knees. And he just put a knife through my back and I died. And he,
Oh,
yeah, it was like awful. And then even in this lifetime, I'm always like, you know, will I let people down? And am I making the right decision? And I honestly was like always trying to appease my parents, like so subconsciously though, so subconsciously trying to appease my parents. And every time I just rebelled against what they wanted, I made it mean something about me. Like I just made it mean that they didn't love me and I wasn't good enough. And every micro decision that I was making, I overanalyze every different outcome that could happen to the point where I don't even know what I want anymore. And then I just choose to do nothing or I choose to do what's easy. Oh, it's such an exhausting process. And I was like, that's why I do that. And ironically, the way that the sword went into my back, it was like through my neck and it came out my rib cage. And that's the exact area in my back and body that's constantly at that time giving me a lot of grief.
wow.
Yep,
And I was like, no way.
that's a thing. That's a real thing.
Ah, that
Yeah.
really is. I've experienced that too. That's so
Hmm.
wild.
Hmm. And just like that disempowerment, like if I make the wrong decision, and then all of my life problems do really revolve around like my friends and my family. And I'm constantly choosing the wrong people. And I'm constantly like, or I was, I've gotten a lot better, but I was choosing the wrong people. And there was lots of power plays and power games and people, you know, coming forth and we are equals, we're friends, you know, like I really like you, I think you're funny. And as soon as they felt like they had something on me, then it was like disempowerment all day. Like I can't even tell you the amount of people that I thought were my friends, and then you turn your back for 1 second and they're saying everything bad about you, and you can almost feel that it's just to disempower you. And I'm like, oh, this past life, I'm never gonna get away from it.
Well, like you said, having that awareness, at least you can try to do the shifting and be like, okay, not falling for this again. My
Yeah, nothing
soul
is
will
what it
not.
seems. Yeah. And what do
Mhm.
you want? Not what's best. Not is it the nice thing to do? Does it look good on paper? It's just like, no, like, what's the vibe? Like, stay away from people
Yeah.
that don't immediately draw you in. Like,
Yeah. When I tune into my heart and ask myself what's the right choice, that's the right one for sure.
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up our questions we had for Kayla. I hope you enjoyed everything that she shared, all the wisdom she shared with us, and you learned something new, guaranteed you did, about karma. And we're going
Mhm.
to end this episode with a card pull. So Kayla is going to pull a card for our listeners.
Woo, woo.
Okay. I got the probably most hilarious card I could, and it says, take a break, get off the treadmill.
Yes.
It just says a life's work. You know, your life, the way it feels to me is like your life is the greatest work of art you'll ever create. And it's the story that you tell, the karma that you create. And if you want to start creating something different, you're probably going to have to step away from the loops that you're in and really ask yourself what it is that you want to create, and then beginning to start choosing more of that. You know, if your soul wants more freedom, it's like, well, where are you not choosing freedom? You know, we need to start choosing more of that. But if you're in the chaos, if you're in the loop, it can be really hard to see. So maybe it's time to take a break, get off the treadmill, and figure out what you want to create, and then re-engage with life in that way.
Okay. When you said that thing about the treadmill, I just saw this hamster running on a little
So
hamster
did
wheel
I.
and not
Yes.
The
going,
karmic
and then
wheel.
and then not getting anywhere because you're just running on this like loop, but you're not making any ground. And I was like, holy hell, somebody who thinks like I just need to hit the ground running and I need to hit it if I'm not doing enough. Well, if you feel like you're not doing enough and you have to keep running, it's exactly what's gonna match you. So just know that it's okay to take a break and it'll come to you. So funny. You saw
Mhm.
the same thing.
Yeah, I saw the hamster. Jeez.
Christy, you and I are one.
Yes.
Oh, so good. Hey, thank you. And Kayla, where can everybody find you? Because I know they're going to want to connect with you after this episode.
Okay, well, I am on Instagram. That's my main realm. I am everywhere else, but I'm not as active. So it's just Akasha with Instagram, Akasha Awakened. And if you want to see my website and all that fun stuff, it's also linked to all my other offerings and podcast episodes and all that stuff. It's just www.akashaawaken.com.
Yes.
And
And you
Kayla
have your own
offers.
podcast as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and Christy
Yeah.
was just on it. You were just
Yeah.
on,
Yeah, it was such a
Christy.
good episode. I listened right away. It's
So
very
good.
good. Yeah, and you
And
offer Akashic courses and readings. Yeah, you have the whole.
yes, I am kind of I have a lot of things. So I have courses. I do teach the Akashic Records. I do teach a course about how to kind of correct your karma so that you start creating the life you desire. I also have a couple other courses, but they're more seasonal. I do have sessions, one-on-one sessions that I do. Um, I have a community, I have a podcast. Like you can find a lot out there on me. I love sharing information. So any corner that I can put it in, I will. So check it out. It's all on my website. And if you have any questions about anything, feel free to send me a message or an email because I would love to share what I have to offer if I can.
Mhm. Right on.
And
Thank you.
yes, and you can follow us on Living the Reiki Life on Instagram and our personal handles. Mine is Reiki with Amanda.
And you can find me at the Birch Soul.
And it would really help us out if you gave us a rating and review on the podcast. That would really help us out in the podcast world. So please do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
1, 2,